Joel Embiid, we're talking about, we don't even know what his future looks like.
No.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. This is their franchise player. We're not even sure what going forward looks like.
And that was a question mark, and you still gave him the extension.
I'm no psychic. I'm going to say the future of Joel Embiid is that he's going to be traded, or at the very least, he should be traded. And if that doesn't happen, because Daryl Morey is still around and he's sticking to his point that I'm about to show y'all in another clip very soon, then the 76ers are just going to be in for a whirlwind and a very tough storm within these next years until Embiid's contract is finally over. That contract, of course, comes from the extension he got last September 2024, which was about $193 million over 3 years. And if you're looking at this season now, up until the 2028-29 season, his last year in the contract, a player option where he's making about $67 million, then overall, this is well over $200 million in the next 5 years, in contrast to him playing only 53% of his total career games in the 10 years that he's been in the NBA. So it's safe to say, and unfortunately, because I don't want to act like Joel Embiid is just purposely doing this, he's going to miss at least half of the games within the future. As a matter of fact, I saw something from the Philadelphia Inquirer that talked about Joel Embiid needing a meniscus replacement, low-dose radiation therapy, something else that's called osteotomy, where they're going to break a bone in his hip in order to alleviate his joint pressure. Joel Embiid has made various remarks in regards to what he's dealing with in handling his injuries in recent times, and here's another clip I want to show y'all that came from just a few days ago.
I'm not as dominant as I was a couple months ago, but that doesn't mean I still can't have a lot of impact on the game. Just me being out there, I think helps a lot. Just my presence, ability to track double teams. My dominant self, I get that. No, it's just tough.
Me watching that clip, the feeling that I got was a very somber one, to hear a superstar say I wasn't as dominant as I was a couple months ago, when in reality, the whole season for Joel Embiid, he has not looked dominant at all based off what we saw at least last year. And so for him to say even a couple months ago he's not as good as he was, and that's not the version that we knew of Joel Embiid, very tough to say the least. And him saying, hey, I can still be out there and attract double teams, it's going to get to a point where they stop double teaming him. Where, in other words, one-on-one coverage is enough. Since Joel Embiid is just too hobbled and too hurt to actually be a threat, you don't need to waste your time sending a double team. They're going to catch on that this is a ploy. He's not what he once was. Now, in fairness to Joel Embiid, he's averaging 23.8 points per game in 30 minutes, still getting you 8 rebounds, 4.5 assists. The numbers, especially in the minutes, look good. I'm just wondering, how long could he sustain this? That's what I'm doubting. How long could he keep trying to hold on to even a shell of himself, where eventually it just falls apart? And this is why I think the Sixers should trade him immediately. However, Daryl Morey sees things differently.
You look at a lot of these teams that are above us in the standings, have young players that are improving and are playing well right now. They're all hoping one of their guys becomes a top player in the world, a top 5 player in the world, because that is required to win the championship. It doesn't happen without one of these special players. And so we're building around Joel. We've built around Joel. We continue to plan to build around Joel.
The irony of this is, I do believe in the philosophy Daryl Morey is talking about, in which you need a special player, top 5 player, in order to actually win a championship, which is why when I see a team who has a star, someone who's really good, they go all in on him, give him the biggest contract, try to build a team around him. I look at it as, man, that's desperate. You're not going to win a championship with that person being your number 1 option. They're probably better suited as a number 2 or even number 3. And then in the future, it's hard to move their contract once the team is sinking and nothing has really worked out. On the flip side, this is what is going to happen or has already happened with Joel Embiid. It's not working out. You're not winning the title, not because Joel Embiid isn't one of those special players that he mentioned, but because he's not available enough to be on the court in order to give your team a title. As a result, when the inevitable happens, in my opinion, which is they're going to have to move on from him, well, it's going to be hard to do that due to what many will see as someone who is a diminished player in terms of his value due to injuries, and on top of that has a huge contract. If you think despite all of this, the 76ers still have a chance as currently constructed, given the talent that you're hoping on, I'll let Paul George tell it to you.
We've shown no sign of a team that will compete, and we just don't have the habits of a champion or a playoff contending team would have. Forget championship, but a playoff contending.
Joel Embiid in the first clip that you watched sounded defeated. Paul George sounds even more defeated. He's talking about the whole team in general, not just him specifically and even the injuries he's going through. It's time for the 76ers to shut it down. I've said in other videos that they got to rebuild around Tyrese Maxey. With that being said, let me get into the meat and potatoes of this video. What I really wanted to talk about, where do you trade Joel Embiid? Which team would want to take him? As I was pondering this, I saw a tweet from NBA Central from a sports booking account that said that the Toronto Raptors would have the best chance of landing him at plus 1,500, Hawks plus 1,800, Rockets plus 1,800, Phoenix plus 2,500. I thought to myself, okay, let's go with those teams. Let's say that these are the best teams, and y'all can tell me any other ones that you want to mention and match up the contracts and see what they could do. I'll start with the Raptors, and I'm going to do this based off of what I believe would be a discount. I don't think any team trading for Embiid is going to want to give up a lot. They're going to know that the 76ers are desperate to get him off the table if they decide to do so, which I think they should. On top of that, we talked about the injury history. You got to match the contract, right? Embiid's contract is huge. It would have to be centered around RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl. Those are key players that the Raptors could give up who also have big contracts, and it still doesn't quite add up. You'd have to throw in maybe a PJ Tucker and whoever else you can see on the screen, but it would be centered around Jakob Poeltl, RJ Barrett, and of course a bunch of first round picks possibly. I wouldn't be surprised if Masai Ujiri entertained this. He strikes me as a guy who plays it safe, but if there's a high risk, very high reward situation, he'll go for it, just as he did with Kawhi Leonard, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes. It's a little clustered at the forward spot. It makes sense if they give up Barrett to go get another player. Why not go get Embiid if that were to happen? On the Hawks side of things, you're not going to trade away Trae Young. Same thing with the Raptors in terms of a player that you're trying to build around. You're not going to give up a Scotty Barnes. It would have to be centered around a Clint Capella, Karis LeVert, Okongwu, as you see. I like the Raptors pieces better, or RJ Barrett. Maybe they would want Emmanuel quickly in that deal too, just depending on how the 76ers would see a fit with him and Tyrese Maxey, both point guard players. So for the Hawks, I see less of a chance that they get a player like Embiid, even if they would give them a bunch of picks in return as well. Houston Rockets, I don't understand at all for two reasons. They got Alperen Sengun at center already. The only other contract they have anywhere near Embiid is Fred VanVleet. I already talked about the point guard situation. They got Tyrese Maxey, but they want to go get a Fred VanVleet. I'm going to just kind of skip over them and go right to Phoenix, which is another obvious one to me in terms of you have Bradley Beal. That's the main player that they would want back. Bradley Beal's contract is huge as well. They wouldn't be able to really add any more pieces to it. I can see why the order that they listed this betting odds in makes sense based off of what I just went through. I'm going to tell you a team who I think should actually go for him if they really want to roll the dice and do a huge gamble and it could still work. The Indiana Pacers. You center this around literally your center, Miles Turner, throw in Obi Toppin and Aaron Naismith, maybe Benedict Mathurin, who I think is a very young player that could explode and become potentially a star. Some first round picks. You could get Embiid. Now you got your little big three with Pascal Siakam, Tyrese Halliburton. You gutted a lot of your bench, so they would have to find a way to make up for that, the depth. But that would make more sense to me, a team like the Pacers. Y'all tell me in the comment section, what do you think of the whole Joel Embiid predicament, the 76ers? Are you somebody who says don't trade him? I would love to hear that opinion and your perspective. Is there any other teams that you would throw out there that you believe Embiid will work on? Let me know in the comment section. Like, share, and subscribe. And as always, salute for listening. Peace.